Let's just start by saying, I don't know shit. Do you
The
ever feel like that?
uh,
The end. We're done. Thank you for listening.
daily. That is my daily struggle.
For those listening in today, the Zoom lady is really obnoxious. When you hit record, she screams at you that this meeting is now being recorded. I will not yell at you that loudly because it's really jarring. And I think my ears, I'm done.
I could see your mouth moving. I can't hear anything because of that woman. Yeah.
Hey, Sadie.
Hey, Jeannie.
Um, how's your reckless life?
Reckless life is good. It's really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
How's your reckless life?
Cool. My reckless life is my reckless life is looking up. Um, it's looking up.
That's good.
Seeing a light at the end of my crazy life tunnel.
Yeah.
I am happy.
I'm happy for you
A
too.
happy girl today. Me
Very.
too. So yeah. So do you think Larry and Fran are happy? Do we have any happy quotes from them today, or are they just grumpy, miserable?
I think they're just living their best lives. I mean, no judgment over here. They're probably the
Oh, I'm just
they're probably the happiest and most content people in the world, and we just perceive them as being miserable. And then really the joke is on us.
you know, I kind of love that they're miserable because I'm secretly miserable. It makes me feel so much better about my life.
Yeah.
Like I was driving back from New Hampshire. I've got there's two new little babies in my family, and very, very excited about that. Driving back from New Hampshire and torrential storms, crazy, you know, and I was whenever I get into circumstances like that, I always think, what would Larry David do? Would this be an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm? You know, always.
You he would
Don't you?
find like a kayak or something and then just like use that as a mode of transportation.
I could see him like getting a flat tire and having to pull off in the pouring rain and then trying to flag somebody down and nobody wants to help. Can't even get a cop to help him, can't get anybody to help him, not the Good Samaritan. No one wants to help him.
No.
And then when he gets somebody to help him, he's such a jerk to him that the person just leaves
Yeah.
with a tire off the car. So he's even worse off than he was when he started.
Yep.
That's an episode. If you're listening, Larry, you're welcome.
You're welcome. Well, speaking of Larry and Fran, I have a couple of quotes for you. Three quotes.
Okay, cool.
Um, we don't have to make this a drinking game since we have to get some work done today. So, I mean, it's optional.
Yeah,
Every time you see me, you want.
do still have a little left in there that I've been saving for the intro just in case.
Well, we'll use that for our 10th episode.
Okay.
That's a good. Yeah, it's a good goal, right? This is number 5. That's
I
for
can
number.
just keep refilling my little tequila perfume bottle
Yeah,
because it's kind of cute.
yeah, it
I have
is.
a funnel.
I like it. It's pretty. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Number 1. I don't take on big things. What I do pretty much is make the big things small and the small things big.
I think that's Larry.
Is that your final answer?
My final answer.
Correct. Yeah. I like that one because I think that pertains to like being a reckless creative and taking on projects and don't take something so big, start out small and then go from there.
And it also fits our 15-minute sprint,
Yeah.
little sprint,
Yeah.
which we will discuss later.
Yes. Okay. You ready? Here's
Yep.
next. Your life story would not make a good book. Don't even try.
I think that's me. That's my quote. I say that all the time. I remember when I used to go right up at the Panera, my Panera office, And as soon as people would find out, there was these guys who thought that I was like a spy. They were like wondered who I was, what I was doing, because I would go up there and I would just be by myself and I'd be writing on my computer, I'd be watching people, then I would start writing, and I'd watch people and I'd start writing. And so one of them finally came up to me one day and asked me if I was a spy. But then once they found out that I was just a writer, which is kind of like a spy, I then they would say to me, "Oh, I've got this great thing that happened to me that would make a great book," or whatever. And they were the most boring conversations ever, and I'm like, "This is not a book. Like, this is not a book." So, let's see. Um, I'm just gonna say I want to say Fran because I said Larry before, but I kind of feel like maybe it's Larry. Like you're trying to trick me.
Is that your
So
answer?
I think my final answer is Larry.
It was Fran.
Oh, damn.
You know, I
Okay.
feel like I've told this one before. I don't know. I
You
feel
feel it?
I'm getting this like feeling. I mean, I guess our listeners can let us know.
Okay, I'm just gonna take a little one just because it is a brand.
That wasn't little.
That was little. I had to go way back because it's low here. People looking on YouTube can see that.
Yeah,
And not that our brand is getting Jeannie drunk, but it might be.
no comment. I feel like after you take like a little swig and you like pull it like on your finger, dab it, armpits.
You know what? You know what? It's my birthday on Saturday, and I'm going to a party. I might try some tequila perfume and see if anyone notices.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Why
Okay,
not?
ready for the third one?
Okay. Yep.
This one makes me giggle. Ask your child what he wants for dinner, only if he's buying.
See, that seems like a Larry.
Is that your final answer?
I don't know, is it?
I'm gonna say no. That's not your final answer because it's Fran.
Yeah, it's Fran. And it had to be Fran. Does Larry even have children?
Yeah, he has a daughter.
Oh, okay. Then I guess it could have been him. I was questioning whether he'd been can you imagine him being your father? We should have his daughter on Reckless Creatives.
Yeah, she. I read something of hers. It was an article piece. I want to say for like the time, like the New York Times or something. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It was pretty, pretty good.
That was good, Sadie D. You got an imitator in your future. What do they call them?
An impersonator.
Yes, thank you. She got tequila strong one sip that I've lost my mind.
Um, yeah, my future is becoming a grumpy old bald man. So thank you. I was gonna say this weekend I got a lot of reading done. I don't know if you've ever read this book, but it was a really good companion piece with the one I sent you. The what's the story? The director meets their screenplay.
Oh,
This weekend. Fun story. Yesterday I had a migraine for like 14 hours, so I was just dead to the world. It sucked. Um,
that's not fun. That's not a fun story, Sadie D.
I hate these migraines. But anyways, I read because I couldn't do noises, so I couldn't watch TV or anything. So I read this other book called In the Blink of an Eye, and it's about editing, film editing, but it is such a good piece for writers, for screenwriters.
Ooh.
A screenwriter, and his name is Walter Murch, and he's worked on like every great film. But yeah, I read them back to back, and I didn't realize it, but they both worked on the same movie. I didn't like connect the dots. So I'll
Oh,
let you
wow.
figure that out. That fun uh, little riddle there of what's the movie that they worked on together. These two authors.
Well, I could.
It's both.
What was so For our listeners, what was the first book that you told me about?
The first book is called What's the Story? The Director Meets Their Screenplay by Peter Markham. He used to be the former
Okay,
head of directing at the American Film Conservatory.
cool. And I was going to say something and I totally forgot.
Yeah.
Prevagen!
Yeah. Commercial break. Now I'm reading this
Commercial break.
other book that you might like. It really just kind of like reinvigorated my, I guess, like wanting to write, wanting to be a creative again, because I kind of hit a low last week. And I have all these books that I just like buy because I'm so excited by the title and what they can be, and then I never read them. So I was like, you know what? I gotta start reading these books. And a lot of them were required reading when I was at AFI, and I did not read them because there was no time for reading when you're at AFI. But this one was really good, and I just started reading it, and I've been taking a lot of notes in my handy notebook here. It's called Crafting Short Screenplays That Connect.
Ooh,
It's
ooh, that looks like a good one. There's not a lot of really good books about shorts.
No, and this one is just really great. Like she made a note where she's like, you need to write this down. And she was right. About like just like the idea of like what you're writing and why you're writing it. And you're writing only to connect. Like everything is about connecting to your reader and your audience. Um, and so I have this short that I want to shoot this fall. And now I'm kind of like realizing like, oh yeah, this is why I'm so excited about this project, because I am so connected to the material in some way. There's a part of me in it. Now I know what I can do with it. And after reading those two other books and figuring out like my director's statement and all that, yeah, it was just really, really fun and exciting.
In this pursuit of art, there are moments when you think, oh, if I just get to this point, or if I just get to this point, then I'll know what I'm talking about, or how the, and I just, like Doug Richardson did an article on pipeline artists about everybody's a hack.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it just really resonated with a lot of people, myself included,
Yeah, I haven't read that
you
one.
know?
I'm scared.
Yeah.
I keep seeing that one. I'm like, I'm not ready.
I'm ready for the real talk.
I'm not ready.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. But so today we're gonna talk about writing partners.
Yeah.
Oh, but before we, because Sadie and I have both had a few, but before we do that, 15-minute sprint.
Yes.
So if you're on Twitter, our loyal listeners, you've seen us tweet out like hashtag 15-minute sprint, like 15 MIN sprint. I have not been good enough about tweeting that out every day. Sadie, I think I have the same shirt.
Target.
Hey, oh no, maybe a little different. Looks just like it. I think I got an American Eagle, but whatever.
Okay, pause and go put it on.
Okay. No, I'm done. I'm done. Um, showering was enough. I'm not going to worry about a wardrobe change. So anyway, so I need to tweet out more about the 15-minute sprint. And I've got so many cords over here. I'm like so tangled. You don't even want to see what's going on under my desk. It's a hot mess. Much like my life. But so the whole goal of the 15-minute sprint, in case you are a new listener, is the month of July. We're trying to get everybody to write or make forward progress on their current project or past project, whatever, rewrite for 15 minutes a day. And really what we're trying to do is um, sort of trick you into just sitting down and working, because you say, your mind says, oh, 15 minutes can do that. That's just 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you sit down, sometimes you do just take 15 minutes because that's all you've got. And that's cool. But then other times you'll get like it'll start your creative juices flowing, and you'll be like, oh, maybe I'll just do another 15 more, another 15 more. So some of the people have been tweeting out saying, my 15 minutes turned into 2 hours, but do not put in your head that you have to do 2 hours. You only have to do 15 minutes. So I don't
It's
want to like
a fun
thwart it.
benchmark. Yeah, it's like a game. You're hitting every time you hit 15 minutes. You're like, oh, I could do that again. That was easy.
Oh my God. That's what I found the other day. I found one of those old "that's easy" buttons. I need to I need to put it here because I could have hit it right there and that would have been perfect.
Yeah,
Missed
you
opportunities.
you could cut that in. Just find it and then record it.
Okay, that's too much work.
I feel
Get
like I'm
real here.
asking a lot from you today, Jean.
That'll take me more than 15 minutes. So forget it. So, okay, so um how many let's just start talking about writing partnerships because
Yeah.
I think for me, like when I first started screenwriting, I started writing with somebody, and I think it was sort of like a safety net kind of feeling. Like I didn't know what I was really doing, and so I'll do it with somebody else, and that'll be great because we can both learn together. We can figure this out. The one thing I would say, if I was going back in time, that I think is super, super important for people to know before you launch into a writing partnership, and I did not know this. So this would be a lot of admissions of things we didn't know. I did not know, and it makes sense, perfect sense now, but at the time when you're starting, I did not know that I would then be like, say we sold that script,
Mhm.
then I was judged as that team, and it really wouldn't help me individually. So, like, if I didn't intend on writing with this person forever, really isn't going to help you
Mhm.
unless you plan on being like a permanent team, because they don't. Somebody said this to me, and I thought it was a really good way of explaining it. You've got a black box and two writers are inside of it and you're working. Nobody can see you. It's a complete dark box and out pops the script. Well, a studio, a producer, whomever doesn't know what happened inside that box. Were you the one who was working really hard, or were you the one who was watching TikTok videos while the other one was working hard?
Mhm.
So they only can judge you based on the two of you working together because they know what kind of product you'll produce as a team.
Mhm.
So I never intended on being a writing partner with somebody forever. So probably shouldn't have started off that way. Or maybe it's okay to start off that way because you're learning and it is nice to have somebody to learn with.
Yeah.
But if you want to be it, so like I think that was just like number one tip.
Yeah. I think also maybe for you, maybe you notice this entering a partnership right out of the gate, you instantly learn your strengths and weaknesses, and that helps you develop your craft even more, which I think is beneficial. So
I also
gotta happen for
think there's a lot. Yeah. And I also think even if you don't intend on being partners forever, um, trying it once isn't a bad thing because this, like my first writing partner, she would always say to people, like, it's a great way to learn how to collaborate
you. Hmm.
and how to compromise and without feeling compromised,
Yep.
you know. And it's also a good practice in putting the project first and not about ego, and it also teaches you about brainstorming and which was a big lesson I learned from it.
Hmm.
I learned a lot of lessons from that, so I think apply to the rest of the industry as a whole. And yeah.
Well, it's funny that I don't know if it's funny, but that we're talking about this
Uh-huh.
because the latest issue for Writer's Digest, I want to like show it to you without showing my home address because you don't want to know where I live. But Writer's Digest, the
I
latest
have that.
issue, I talk about writing partners. Do I need do I need one of these suckers? Do I need a writing partner?
Yeah.
And I talk about all that. I talk about uh, ownership, trust, collaboration, being vulnerable. Um,
I haven't read it yet.
well,
Oh,
maybe you don't need to. because I think you already have your answer. But basically, it's really for people who are not sure if they need one, if they're thinking about it, if it's right for them. I kind of distilled it down to like it's like a marriage and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of work. Um, I actually was just talking with my writing partner this last Sunday when we were meeting. We're looking at entering a fellowship and decided against it because it actually didn't make sense for us with our careers at this time. But we're like, what's one of our strengths as a partnership? And I was like, well, we've been together as collaborators and partners longer than both of our marriages combined. I think that's a success for us that we've been able to keep pushing forward and we've never swayed or anything where it's always like we've always trust each other and we're always like happy to talk and excited to share pages because it's very rare that you get that kind of collaboration with someone else, especially when he's like in a different time zone. We're not seeing each other every weekend and stuff. Um, and I've had other partnerships where it's really exciting out of the gate, and then true colors come through, and you're like, this is not
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to say this one doesn't work, you
Mhm.
know? I mean, the sad part about that when they don't work, and we should talk there's two things I definitely want to touch on. Like, how do you find one and how do you create that partnership and rules and whatnot? And also how partnerships work once you're working together. But also, I'll just say this now because we're on this topic, but it's okay to also end it. You
Yeah.
know, like it's okay to say, this isn't healthy for me, or I don't like the projects, or it doesn't even have to be something that's negative. It can just be that, look, I think you're more interested in genres that I'm not interested in writing, or you're more interested in being a producer when I really am more interested in writing. You know,
Mhm.
like so if one of you is acting like a producer and giving producer notes and the other one's doing all the writing,
Yeah.
a partnership for some people that might be fine, but that like for me that kind of partnership doesn't work. Like I might as well just be writing by myself because then I will that will help my writing career as
Mhm.
an individual.
Yeah.
But if your name is just on the front of the script and all you've done is give me producer notes, that's not really helping my individual career.
Yeah.
So I can get those notes from other people or even from you, but not, you
Right.
know.
Which I think goes back to you talking about looking at you as an individual writer. Now you're attached to this person. So if you wanted to go out for another project on yourself, they're like, but where's your partner? I
Mhm.
also talk about that in the article that a manager doesn't want to read your work. If they're coming for just you, do not send them work that you've written with someone else because they don't want to look at it. They want to look at your work. Or if you're going out as a writing partner team, go with your team. Don't leave the other
Mhm.
person at home and not, tell them that you're going on these meetings because that does not bode well with uh, you as an individual going out and doing that and says a lot about your character that you're not um, honest. So don't do that.
Yeah, so let's talk about like how did you find your writing partner?
So I've had many. So this one, his name is Eric. He's a delight. We met in grad school. I had another partner there. And that one we just, saw things differently and that's fine. But him and I, we just kind of we were really good friends in grad school. And then like I think it was like our second year, we're like, hey, we should write a spec together. That would be fun. And they're like, oh, like we're really good together. Like we get each other's humor. We like, where my weaknesses are, he's able to like lift it and like vice versa. We were really comfortable giving each other notes and taking feedback and making things work because it was always, going back to the project, what makes it better. It's not us and our ego, it's the story and stuff. Um, and it worked out. We were working on at the time. The Office was the big hit TV show at the time, and we wrote a
Mm.
spec and we gave it to our comedy instructor at the time, and he submitted it to the Humanitas Awards. So we were nominated for that to get through that, but we did not win. But I mean, it was cool to be even considered because that was a very
Yeah.
hush hush thing where like only certain people got selected, and we're like, okay, well, there's something here. Obviously, like
Yeah.
we think our humor is, quirky and weird, but we were saying something through our writing, and we're
Mm-hmm.
like, let's keep doing this. So we've just been at it. We've written stuff on spec. We've been paid to write projects together. Um, and then, life happens. We both kind of took a step back from writing. He started a family and has been moving all over. And he's now a librarian. And
Oh, awesome.
yeah, he's just like, he's an awesome dude and he's had an awesome
Oh,
life.
can we have him on someday? Because I really want to talk about libraries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, because I think like authors, getting your book into a library, I don't think is an easy thing. Like, like, so, like, I would love to understand that aspect, you know,
Yeah.
and that'd be really cool.
Yeah, he does a lot of cool things, a lot of cool creative initiatives too for his branch. He would be a lot of fun to chat with. He's also a musician. He's a definitely a reckless creative. So
Have you ever written songs together?
no, no. But we did in grad school, we did a project where we had to take a big life event and then turn it into like a short film using puppets or something. So we took some like crazy story that happened to me and when I was a kid, and then we wrote a short using sock puppets, and he made all the puppets and like the music, and he edited it together, and it's pretty ridiculous. But
I'm so sad that I don't have a sock right next to me because I would have totally slipped my hand in there and been like,
yeah, it's pretty good. I'll have to ask him to find that if he has it.
that'd be hysterical.
But yeah, he's super talented guy. We should definitely get him on.
Yeah, cool.
He has a lot to add.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we just made it work, and now but I think the pandemic, as terrible as it's been, it's that silver linings that we've had that time to really focus on our writing. So this last
Yeah.
year and a half, we've just made it that effort to meet every weekend if we can, and then we have that open communication and say like, hey, like I didn't get any pages done. Can I have another week? And it's like, yes, that's fine. And again, it goes back to what our 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 last podcast, where it's like, I have no excuse to not write, especially after watching a 2-year-old, and he has two very young ones, and he's able to like knock pages out and like really good pages, and I'm like, here's 2 pages. I have no excuse.
But I also, but I think in terms of that, like, to not be so hard on yourself about that, because I do feel like my life is super, 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 super crazy. Um, but I think sometimes like when your life is really hectic and you've got little ones buzzing around and stuff, you actually learn the skill of compartmentalizing and shoving things in little time slots that you might not have been able to do prior.
Right.
Like I think about my life when I was single. Oh my God, I wasted so much time. Like I would love just a little bit of that time back because I just doing nothing,
Yeah.
painting my nails, looking through catalogs, whatever. I don't even know what the hell I was doing. Drinking at bars. Okay, I don't want to get that. That's fine. I would never not do that. But yeah, I mean, I think finding the partner. Here's what I see. I see a lot of people on Twitter, and I've been doing script chat since 2009.
Mhm.
So I've watched a lot of writers over the years on social media, and a lot of them will meet on some site like that, like some chat or some Facebook group or whatever, and be like, "Hey, I'm looking for a writing partner. Oh, I'll write with you. Oh, great." And it's like, no, 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 no. Like you, you, you would not marry someone what is it on Tinder? Swipe right, swipe left.
Yeah.
What's the good one?
I don't
Like
know.
if you
But,
swipe, I don't
but
know.
yeah,
Whatever, I don't know, whatever way you swipe that you like the person, if that turned into a marriage instantly, that would be bad.
yeah,
It's the same thing with a writing partnership. I mean, and
yeah.
then you have a baby together. And then, so say your writing partnership breaks up, who gets custody of the baby?
Mhm.
Like, what do you want both your names on it? Do you want your name to be removed from it? All those years of work gone. I mean, this is like a legit, serious topic and decision.
Yeah.
And So it's okay to, but so you should, I shouldn't, I'm not going to tell people what to do, but I would advise
Yeah.
that maybe look at a writing sample,
Mhm.
maybe have a few Zoom sessions if you're not in the same area, maybe, you know, look them up on social media all over the place to see if they're a hot mess,
Mhm.
because executives are going to do that. They're
Yep.
going to look you both up on social media. So if you've got somebody who is just ranting and going crazy on social all the time, maybe not, dial that back,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Maybe you don't want
I
that.
mean,
Or maybe you do, but most likely not.
and you may be somebody who's ranting and you're both ranting, and so that's your brand. Like, I mean, that's who you are. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
But just make sure you're cool with whatever you're seeing,
Yeah.
and then, and also read their writing. Like, make sure that you're not partnering with somebody who's not at the same level as you.
Yep.
Um, I've been super, super fortunate to have a couple writing partners who had vast writing experience, and learned a ton from them. And my current writing partner is a known screenwriter who used to be a ghostwriter for many years. He was even, he'd go up for jobs. We would come out of meetings. I remember we came out of a meeting once in LA pitching TV shows with another group of writers we were developing ideas with. And him getting a phone call afterwards being like, can you rewrite this guy? I can't tell you who it was, but it was a big guy. So, like, he had a lot more experience in the business than I did.
Mhm.
And so when I asked him, why did you write with me? Like, I didn't have as much experience as you. So why did you write with me? And he said, because I was the only writer he had ever met who was hungry and eager to learn and put the work in to improve. And so once he had sort of, because he had started off as my mentor,
Mhm.
and once he had seen my style, my pattern, my work ethic, my drive, he was like, I've never wanted to write with somebody before, but I want to write with you. And then we've got two scripts that we've done, and life has gotten in the way for sure. But one of them was like, there's, when we talk about different ways to work together,
Mhm.
um, I've done it with different partners. I've done it different ways. Like, one partner, it was, I'll write a scene, you'll write a scene, or I have the voice of this character down. So if there's a scene that this character is the prominent character in driving the scene, I'll write that scene. You write the other one. I happen to be really good at like the ensemble, crazy dinner party scenes. So like I would write those. Like, so it just really depended on where we really kind of chose scenes based on our skill sets. And that was a really interesting way to do it. And I thought it was great. And then we'd each give each other notes on our scenes, and so it was very, very collaborative, and I learned a lot from that. And then I did another project with a different partner that was very much my writing, a lot of it. And then he was more of a, like, would come in and write some, but was, more of the producer notes kind of thing. And that actually worked fine because he was so good at challenging me and pushing me, and it was just a different way to work. I
Mhm.
actually really liked it, and doing that gave me a lot of confidence because it made me realize I could do this, like, all by myself. Like, I could do this. So that was like a really, really good lesson. And then with Unk, it's very, our we've have two different scripts that we've done two different ways. Like, one of them, it was his idea, and so he's being more of a driving force of that. And then there's another one, we're actually writing a horror script together, which is something I never thought I'd write, but we came up with this. This one was just totally the two of us brainstorming, coming up with the idea together. So it wasn't like something one of us came to the table with. And we
Mhm.
should talk about ideas too, because I think that's super important, like how as a team you try to figure out what you're going to write.
Yep.
So this one, we had come up with this idea together, and we decided we wanted to try a completely different approach and have fun with it, since horror is like this crazy genre. So we would each write 5 pages, not knowing where the story was going, not knowing what the other person was going to do. And so like I would be like, I would write my 5 pages, and then I remember I created this one character, Calvin. I was like, okay, and I was really excited about this character. I had all these plans in my head, what I was going to do with him. And then I give it to him, and he writes the next 5 pages, and he killed Calvin. But it was awesome because I'm reading it going, oh my God. And like I was super shocked. So that was, we were sort of taking like the Coen brothers approach,
Mm-hmm.
where we would push it far as we could push it, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and then yeah, so that's really fun.
Yeah,
And
that
now
reminds me
we're
of, there's a writing method you could do that we did in my comedy class a long time ago. It was called the Exquisite Corpse. Basically, you would write a scene and then you would hand it off to another writer and they would do something where they like, you'd write this great character and like, nope, now they're dead, but we're going to take it this other direction. You're like, okay, that's actually pretty good. And then you like keep going. It's a fun exercise. I recommend it
I
to.
think it's yeah, it's really cool. And I think if you're looking to um test out a writing partnership, that might be a really cool way to do it.
Yeah.
Like before you sign on to write a script together, do some practice stuff like that to see how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think for me, like writing partnerships, the thing that's tough is for me personally, I felt like I ended up writing their ideas more than my ideas, and I didn't like that.
Yeah.
That's why the horror script is so fun, because it was like this was something we really came up with together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like when you guys are coming up with ideas, like how do you decide what you're going to work on?
Yeah, so we have a running Google sheet that we have that is basically our idea bank, and we'll throw in ideas that we have for scripts or TV shows that we think are interesting, or a spec we want to write for a TV show. And we'll go through after we've written a project and we're like, okay, what's the next thing? And we'll go to the next one that's like, okay, this one we both can really get behind. This one would be a lot of fun. Really, it comes down to like which one excites us the most out of the 20 that we have here. And the one that we're working on right now, I was my initially my idea, and then I brought to him, and he was like, "Yes, let's do it." It's like a very outlandish comedy horror script. Again, horror is something I've never done, but that's
Right, me too.
so. And he was able to look at it and give a different objective, like point of view on it that I never would have thought of, and it's made it way better. And that's like, for sure, like, no, that's not how I imagine it. It's this way. And they're like, no, that's actually a really good note. We should go that way because he's trying to make the story better, not make it worse. Um, but we do, we'll when it comes to like TV specs, we will brainstorm those ideas together. So that's more like a unified idea.
Yeah.
But when it comes to features, usually it's kind of like, what do we have that we think would be fun for the two of us? And we've even brought stories or ideas to the table of like, hey, I was thinking about writing this. Would you want to do this with me? And it's like, nah, that's more of your thing. Do it on do it on your own. If you want,
Yeah.
let me know, because we're really comfortable with that too. Like, maybe this isn't for us to do together.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take it back. And it's like, that's totally fine. No, no harm, no foul. So, um, really,
And that's a really important thing too, because just because you brainstorm something and you've said something out loud doesn't mean it's now automatically owned by the team.
mhm,
You still are an individual human who has a right to say, this is an idea I have and I want to write this by myself.
mhm,
Like this is, like, so I think it's just about maturity and being an adult and being like, okay, this one's yours, even if they kind of like it, but you just decide, I want this to be a project that I'm doing.
yeah,
Um and that's cool, because even if one project happens for one of you individually, and when we talk about, like that writing team, you're always judged as a team. I still think that if you individually have success and then you write something together, there's still going to be momentum that goes with that helps the team,
Yeah.
as opposed to the other way around, you know?
Absolutely.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
So when you guys I've described how my process is and all the different processes I've tried. I mean, there is no one right way or one wrong way. It's about what works for you guys together. So what works for the two of you?
So for us, so when we started, we were in the same city, so that was easier for us to meet up and write together. Now that we're in different states, we heavily rely on technology when it works. So a lot of Google, a lot of Zoom meetings. We use Final Draft, we use the collaborator or the script notes on there, especially to just throw in notes as we're reading. And that helps a lot. And what we do initially for us, what we've been doing is we have the idea, and then we'll start building out the worlds. We'll make, who are our characters, what do they sound like, who are their friends, who are their families, kind of just build that world. And then we'll start plotting out the acts, and like, okay, this is going to happen in act 1, act 2, act 3, and then we'll do a deeper dive and start really breaking down the beats, and then we'll go through and start breaking down each scene, and we do that together. We'll take 2 hours, 3 hours on a Sunday and just break out, we'll break the first act together and get all the scene beats in there, and then we'll take all that, paste it into Final Draft, and basically we have everything outlined ready to go, and we just have to write in characters and action and their dialogue. And then, depending on what it is, for whoever's really eager to get started, we'll say like, hey, I'll do the first, 15 pages on the first act, and then I'll give it to you, later this week. And sometimes we'll hit that goal, or sometimes we're like, oh, I wrote the whole act. Here it is. And it's like, oh, thank you so much. Like now we can move on, because
Yeah.
we want to finish it, so then we could go back and really comb through it. So
Yeah.
on this one right now, we finished our first draft like last month, and I think we started. I want to say like we started on this one in like May. We've moved pretty fast on this one, which is really exciting for
Yeah.
us. So right now we're just like going through and just really polishing up like character attitude and their arcs, and we have all these other like B stories going on and stuff where it's like, okay, is this really helping the story? Do we need to cut it? Okay, maybe we need to add things here, or make this, the continuity of scenes, are they tracking, because we're doing a lot of bouncing around. So we heavily rely on the script notes and Final Draft to track all of those, and just like give notes to each other, like, hey, don't forget, like, do this. Like I had a scene, I can't remember what the scene was, but it was recent, and I was writing it and I was like, I can't figure out this scene, or like the voice of the scene, or like what this big moment is. Like I don't think I'm the person to do this. This is more Eric's thing, and I think he could figure it out. So I like gave him that note. I was like, fix this, make it better. And he like did it, and I was like, yeah, like, and he'll do the same thing too. He's like, yeah, I can't figure out, like, I feel like this dialogue is too on the nose. Have her say something else. It's like, okay, and like, we'll figure it out. It's like, yeah, that's way better.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but some of my favorite thing is like just writing in the dialogue line, like put something really awesome here, like make them say something really funny here or whatever, and then just moving on, because if you're not, especially with comedy, if you're not feeling funny at the moment, just move on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
I mean, I think. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that another thing that we've been doing is just finding music also that like resonates with that scene or script, and we'll spend an hour just setting songs back and forth until we're like, that's the one, that's what we're going to anchor onto, or that's going to push this scene to like really give it that momentum, or set the mood for this, like listen to this song. That's a lot of fun too.
That's interesting. Like, and the other thing is like sometimes you're going to come across somebody you think you want to work with, or you're trying to work with, and then you've gone through all the steps to picking. Like I wrote an article on Script Magazine called 11 Ways to Avoid Disaster When Choosing a Screenwriting Partner.
That's a good one. I've read it.
Yeah, and it's and really I mean, you should definitely read it if you're I don't remember all the 11 things I said, but go read it. But one of the things that happens sometimes after you get together as a partnership, you realize, hey, I'm an outliner and you're a pantser.
Mhm.
So how are we going to do this? And that was the situation I ran into with Unc. Like, I'm an outliner and he's a pantser. And so it it was a process, figuring out, like, he like just like the nice big broad stroke, and he's always been writing by himself, so that's all he needs, and it works for him. But then, like, I'm like, but I need a plan. Like, if I'm writing something and you have this vision of where you want it to go in your head, I need to understand what's in your head.
Mhm.
So we need to put something on paper. And then so we Unc's really good at structure, and he's probably read everything that there's out there and watched a zillion movies and analyzed them and whatnot. And so he knows structure in his head so well that he doesn't need an outline. And so what we did together was, like, we came up with this kind of our own structure where we found this really kind of cool happy medium where we created, like, it's not a paint by numbers thing at all, but it's just sort of like our own little structure
Mhm.
that he put it in a PDF so he could just jot some notes down through just quickly jot notes down. And then I felt more confident and secure, because you can't write unless you're feeling confident. And I felt more confident where the story is going and what I need to do to make it get there, so that I'm not derailing something that's in his head, because I'm not a mind reader. And it was like a nice, but it wasn't like the super crazy detailed thing. I certainly could get more detailed if I wanted to, but it was a nice little happy medium. So I think figuring that's one of the early things to figure out, like, are you an outliner or are you not an outliner? And then how are you going to work with that? Because if you're working with somebody, just like in a writer's room at a TV show, they kind of all work together and everybody's participating in where this is going.
Mhm.
And and so you kind of have to find a way to get on the same page with the story, unless you're doing some, fun script like we're doing with a horror script, where we're just the first draft, we're just vomiting it out and having fun with it.
Yeah.
Because we want to, I mean, honestly, if you're not having fun while you're doing this, what is the point?
What is the point? Yeah. Stop. Don't do that.
Stop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Just
stop.
don't waste your time.
Yeah. And the other cool thing that we've recently um, been doing is we took a little break,
Mhm.
and on our scripts, we kind of put them aside. They're the kind of screenplays that aren't like time sensitive or anything like that. But he's writing a novel based on a TV pilot that he had written, and um, as a book series, and it's going to be really, really awesome. So, as his partner, I 1,000% support that. And because also too, like, say you want to branch into novels, okay? Um, that's not really something we're going to write together. We're not going to write a novel together. Even writing the pilot together, we wouldn't necessarily write the novel together.
Mhm.
So he's um, writing that book series by himself, but Hollywood loves intellectual property. So say somebody, and it would make a great TV show.
Mhm.
So say somebody, he's able to sell it as a TV show, then it's like, okay, Jeanne, I want you in the writer's room with me. So there's still some advantage to that. And also, we super support each other when it, like, I'm writing a novel that we've talked about before. He'll send me links to stuff like, I stumbled upon this, I found this, here's a great resource. So, like, we're like, we brainstorm each other's individual projects with each other, and we also work together on our joint projects. So
Yeah.
super supportive. But I've done that with other writing partners too, and that's really cool when you can get to that place where you support each other individually as well as together, and that there's not this
Yeah.
tension about wanting to do something yourself. I mean, when you can get to that place, I think it's super cool.
Yeah.
um
It's like a healthy marriage. It's
yeah, like,
exactly.
you think about, like, in your marriage, you're probably, whatever partner you're with, you're probably, one of you is probably going to go off and have dinner with friends, or, you know, and that's okay. Like a little space and distance.
Totally
I mean,
fine. Yeah.
I've got a friend who told me she's been married 30 something years. And one day I said to her, like, what do you, and they, what's your secret? And she goes, he's in the city Monday through Friday and he's only here on the weekends.
Hey, whatever works, right? Yeah.
I mean, you got to have some space. You got to let each other breathe and be individuals too. I mean,
Yeah.
if, people are happy individually, they're better as in the team,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that actually brings me to the novel writing, because Eric, my partner, he he's been working on a novel, and he has a screenplay that I think he's either adapting or it's vice versa. And he's been teaching me stuff about novel writing, because I'm kind of interested. We talked about doing the NaNoWriMo,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, oh, here's like my outline and like what I figured out about breaking down chapters and stuff. And he sent me all this stuff, and I was like, this is so cool that you just taught me this thing that I had never even would have thought of. It's such a different way of approaching story as well, and breaking down chapters. Like I never even thought of that, because it's just not in my
Yeah.
wheelhouse. But also,
Yeah.
I'm so excited for him, where I'm like, I want to read your book. Where is it? Because
Yeah.
I love his writing. So um,
Yeah.
being that supportive, like annoying person in his ear, like, to wrote those pages, sometimes you need
Yeah.
that.
Like when I wrote a book that I haven't published it. I think we talked about it before, but um and I will, but it's a trilogy, so I've got to write the other ones, whatever. But I would send him every chapter, and he would send me back an email sometimes going, I don't like her now. I don't like her at all. I think she's horrible and I just hate her. Like I'm like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Like, so he's like, and that's the other thing. It's like when you're giving each other feedback, like, you know, being able to give honest feedback and receive honest feedback without, like, to give it without being a jerk
Mhm.
and to receive it without getting defensive.
Yeah.
Writing partnerships is such a great way to learn that skill.
Yep. Yeah. It's very humbling, and it
Mhm.
also teaches you just how to, if you do have the opportunity to critique someone else's writing, or you have the opportunity to read the script, and you're like, I want your feedback, to learn how to tap into giving them that creative, constructive feedback too, that's going to actually amplify the script, rather than like, well, here's how I think you should rewrite it, because this is what I think and how I would write it. It's like, no, you're not the one who's writing it. It's this other person. What tools can you give them and equip them with to make it better in their vision, you know?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like I think some people think they make the assumption early on, like, oh, if I have a writing partner, it'll be easier because I only have to write half the script. Like I like, or I have somebody else to write this for me. They'll write a few pages magically while I'm working in my day job.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, you do work together and you do share the writing and ideally, but it's not half the work. I
Mhm.
mean, collaborating is a huge amount of work and requires a huge amount of patience. I
Mhm.
remember one time my partner was waiting for me to write the scene, and it was like 3 weeks had gone by and I had not written this scene. And um and I know she was frustrated, which I get, but it was a complicated scene. It was like this dinner scene. It was supposed to be funny and whatever. And it was like I couldn't just force it. Like I had to. And I remember one day going out for a run, and all of a sudden I figured out how to tackle the scene. And I sat down and I wrote it in, like, I don't know, an hour,
Mhm.
and sent it to her. And she was like, she, messaged me back. She's like, I just spit my coffee out across the room. Like, so, like, it was worth the wait. Like, but but it can be very challenging. Like, you have to respect that the other person might get frustrated with you. And, and, you know, and also need a lot of patience for the other person. The creative process isn't just like you switch a light switch and you can create.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're going to have disagreements, and and I remember, just really tried to come up with some guidelines, like about like, are each of us allowed one thing in the story that we just say, this is the one I'm pulling the card on. I feel that strongly about this. This has to stay in.
Yeah.
Or is everything a discussion
Mhm.
and a consensus?
Mhm.
Like you have to make those decisions yourself about what you want to do. I always just try to ask myself, is it serving the story? Is it advancing the story? Is it not advancing the story? And the other thing that's really cool about writing partners is knowing when you can cut scenes. And so say I've spent that 3 weeks working on that one scene. Let's use that for an example. And what if it hadn't worked? And she was like, you know what? I don't even think we need this scene. So here we've spent all this time and we can just cut it.
Mhm.
Be open to that. Be open to somebody else saying, I know you worked really hard on that scene, but I don't think the story needs it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. We've had that too, where in this recent script where it's like this, because of the way we've reshaped the story, after these first 20 pages, we don't need that that scene, a dinner scene, like
Mm-hmm.
as an example of, it's just too redundant. We're gonna take it out. And it's like, yeah, that's fine, because that
Yeah.
advances the story and makes it better, because why would you want redundancy? That's boring.
Yeah. Yeah. What I would do sometimes too, like cutting scenes, I would just take them and put them in a folder because it just made me feel better. And actually when I was working on Slavery by Another Name,
Mhm.
when we were doing the feature, there were a lot of scenes I cut. And because the first draft was just huge. And so I cut a lot of scenes and I put them in the folder. But then later when we went back years later and I was asked to write it as a miniseries, I got to pull all those scenes back,
Mhm.
and I didn't use them exactly the way they were, I changed them, but it was like, I get to bring this character back. Like
Yeah.
I get to bring all these other characters back in because now we're trying to create 6 to 10 hours or whatever,
Right.
So then I was like, I'm so glad I saved them,
Yeah. Tap back
you
into
know?
the graveyard. Um, to switch gears, this is always a thing that I think any writer just likes to avoid because we don't fully understand it. But getting things in writing, contracts,
Mm,
um, no matter what the collaboration is, if it's your best friend or someone you just met on Twitter or whatever it is, always did it in writing. The Writers Guild of America has a lot of resources on their site with free access to contracts for collaboration agreements. They're super straightforward. All you have to do is just tick some boxes, sign it, agree to whose story it is, if you want to do that story by or whatever it is. Because also you could trust your partner, like I trust my partner with everything, but it's also protects us from anyone else outside. If it's a producer who's like, well, I'm gonna take this whole idea and then say it's mine. It's like, no, we've had it in writing since 2011. This is totally ours. You can't do anything about it. So not only does it protect your partnership, but it protects, any outside forces that may be that are may not be as kind.
well, and it also, and if there, and not to be the Grim Reaper, but this is life, right? So it also protects um, your spouse. Say you die and you own half that product.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have that agreement, your spouse is screwed. Like if in terms of trying to get any ownership, say the partner goes off and sells it, and the spouse should be getting that money,
Yeah.
and but also when people get divorced,
Hmm.
if you created that during the marriage, that's like kind of like an asset of the marriage. Like
Yeah.
like there's a whole, I got a friend who got divorced and it was ugly. And yeah.
Yeah. Get it in writing,
So
everyone.
get it in writing because then your partner is going to want his 50 or her 50% protected
Yeah.
from the angry ex. I mean, there's just protect yourselves,
Yeah.
people.
And that's coming from someone who's learned it the hard way. I've had that with a few partnerships where it's like I should have seen it coming and I should have had it in writing. It's just always it's just a good way to protect yourself and your
And
loved
you can,
ones.
yeah, and you could also do partnership, like a grievance if you decide to get divorced, like if you decide to break up, you should have some sort of agreement in place about what you have decided to do with those screenplays. Like who who is allowed to pitch them? Who is,
Mhm.
do you want your name on it? Do you want your name off it? Like, you should just like, I mean, you just like in a marriage, if there's a divorce, you have some sort of a final agreement, and hopefully you can do it in a way that still allows you to maintain those friendships. Sometimes it's not possible. Art is very emotional,
It is,
and people can handle it in different ways, and
yeah.
um, but anything you can do to prepare yourself so that it's not a big train wreck, and everything is transparent and above board, and where each other stands, and everybody feels respected. Whenever you can handle it that way, like a mature adult, is always a good thing.
Yeah, yeah.
you know
And I feel like this goes to any creative endeavor because I've had this also with my music side of things as well. It's I've always approached it as, you're joining a band and it's, maybe three other people in there and you're basically in a marriage with them as well. Maybe sometimes you have like the parents of the band and everyone's like, please, mom and dad, don't fight. But um when it comes down to songwriting, who has the rights to the music or who wrote the lyrics, because once you start publishing as well, they do ask those questions like, who wrote the majority of the music, who wrote the lyrics, is it, a combination, and you want to set those, rules up or guidelines up very clearly within the band of who's doing what, so that, that line they're not like playing your song and you're like, hey, why did you re-record my song and now you're selling it? Like, I did a piece of that because technically that is my song. And there's other ways of getting copyright and protection that way through for music like the Library of Congress. Back in the day, it was
Mm.
like you record the demo and like mail it to yourself and never open the mail. You could still do that, but there's other ways to do it as well. But just going into any partnership and creative endeavor, it's very emotional. It's a lot of work, and you gotta have that trust to within yourself and that other person to keep it going. And if it's not fun, step away.
Get out.
Either, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, life is short. Move on, and it's okay to move on. I mean, I think, but when they work, I think it can be amazing. Like, there's nothing like breaking story with somebody, and like all the sparks are flying, and you're so excited, and you're coming up with ideas, and even if it was initially your idea, and they're adding to it and making it better, and you're like, oh my God, I never would have thought of that. I mean, like, it's so exciting, and then to carry that over to get feedback into your own work and have that kind of friendship and respect for each other, it's super super cool. But I would say, um, make sure in the beginning that you kind of both, like, that you discuss your long-term career plans, because if one of you, if you really want to, just for me, I just want to be a writer, right? So I mean, producer, whatever, I don't care. But if the other person really wants to be a writer director, or wants to be a producer, there's that's a different path. And and maybe if they want to be a director, your script isn't gonna, and they want to direct your script, that's a harder sell if they've never directed anything before. So that's going to make it harder to sell your script if they want to attach themselves as director. I mean,
yeah,
you got to like really talk about what your career plan is, and if you want to write individually too, say that right up front, so that it doesn't come as a surprise, or they don't feel abandoned, or dismissed. Like,
mhm,
it's super important to just, if I could go back, I would have had some much more honest conversations in the beginning.
yeah,
Um, when I look back at all of my partnerships, certain arguments would have been avoided if
yeah,
we had sat down and had both been super honest about what our goals were.
yeah.
And so that's also This is also relationship advice. Is this sort of like a marriage therapy session we're having
I feel like it. Yeah. Yeah.
here? Yeah,
I
I'm
like it.
thinking.
It's enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, although I don't think I could ever be a writing partner with my husband. I just feel like we're not on the same page there when it comes to the kind of stories we'd want to tell. He has great ideas,
Well,
but he won't write them. And I always tell him, just go write it. Just do it. And he's like, well, you're the writer. I'm like, but I can't write that. This is not something I would want to write. So yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think that that's a little, there are
Yeah.
amazingly, there's some great husband and wife writing teams
Yeah.
that
Which is awesome.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It is really cool.
Like the
Um,
Wibberleys,
mhm,
they're stinking awesome.
mhm.
Super, super awesome humans, great writers, great team. It can be done.
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna have, I think, in a couple episodes, I don't know when, but we're gonna be interviewing some husband wife partners, filmmaking teams, and that'll be interesting to pick their brains on how they like keep business and home life separated, and
Yeah.
it works, because that's very interesting, especially now in this during this crazy time where it's like you don't really have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
How do you make
Yeah.
it work? It's very interesting.
Yeah. And like, and I know we're also going to have the Thornton brothers on who um, write together both novels and screenplays and TV pilots. And they are super cool and edgy and crazy. Um, and
That one.
yeah, that's going to be a fun one. They have a really cool podcast called Hard Out. There's a link to it on Pipeline Artists. I think if you go to the pipelineartist.com/listen tab, all the way on the bottom, you'll see recommended podcasts by us, and click on that. You'll see all the ones we recommend. But yeah, they're super cool and they're fun as hell. You're gonna definitely want to tune in for that one.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
But
That brings me to another thing I want to tap into before we say cut on this, but um, aligning your voices on the page so that
mm,
it's not so obvious that there's two different people writing. I think that's
yeah,
very, very hard, but it's also very easy to figure out. If you give your script to someone else to read that doesn't really know either your writing, maybe, or they know both of your writing, and they can just be like, this is I see two different voices on here. It's not tracking. Like, you both have cool ideas, but it's just not the same script. There are two different scripts. I've read scripts like that, and I've known both of the writers individually in their writing, and I could see like, oh yeah, that's his scene, and I could like call it out, and like, how'd you know? It's like, because I just know your writing and your voices. You have to figure out a way to make it one singular voice. Otherwise it's just going to make your script
do
really
you
messy.
have tricks? Do you have tricks for that?
um yeah, I think it comes down to, once you're in the outlining phase and really breaking your characters in that story, breaking down, like super analyzing those characters and their voices, so that once you start writing you're both aware of like, okay, this character would say this thing, or this is how they would react. um and I think another thing that helps is just, like you've mentioned before, read each other's writing to
Mm-hmm.
understand, like, okay, these are the things that we could see eye to eye on, like how we would write our description, or character voices, like we can make that work together. Or maybe I do a thing that's different than what Eric does. Maybe that's not something I would bring to the table because it's so different. That's my own voice. There's many ways to do it. That's what works for me. Um, but yeah, I think reading each other's scripts beforehand to understand each other's voices and see what works.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe this is a script that we're not going to really cuss a lot in, so please don't write swear words in every description. Or I don't use beats, please don't write beat, and between
Yeah.
scene heading or something.
Yeah.
Start
But
kind
also
of.
too, and also too, like looking at their style and saying, I don't do that, but what's the harm or foul in doing
Yeah,
it? Like
yeah,
it's like letting it go. Like if
yeah,
it's like, I mean, it would be hard to have a big argument about like to write beat or not to write beat. and like as if there's a right or wrong way. I mean, there really isn't.
Yeah. It really comes down to your, I guess, the type of script you're writing too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we've pretty much solved everybody's problems and answered all their questions about writing partnerships and also in their marriage. I mean, just saying.
Yeah.
Talk it out.
Yeah.
Communicate.
Give each other
Take
space.
feedback well. Give each other space.
Yeah.
Secret of life.
Have fun. Hang out if you can. If you have that community, you don't.
That's a good point.
But you should be friendly.
And that's a good point. Like, have a date night with your partner. Like, not necessarily really a date night, but you know what I mean. Like, do something fun together.
Yeah.
Go play miniature golf. Go like do something. Like, you'll learn more about each other and start to trust each other a little bit. And one of the other thing too, that's kind of a cool thing that I've done with all my partners at some point, gone to a writing conference together. Because it's really interesting to see what courses they're interested in taking, you're interested in taking, but also too, from a practical standpoint, you can split up.
Yeah. Divide and conquer.
But also, one of the things I did once, I was like, I should take this course, because I felt that they didn't quite understand what some points that I was trying to make, that I thought this instructor would be able to help them understand better. And then we could then afterwards have a more engaging conversation and productive conversation about whatever it was, whether it was about theme or outlining or whatever. And it's actually worked, because you've got like a third person giving an opinion that helps you both, especially if it's an opinion, it's something that you two can't agree on. And then you listen to what this person says, and then you have that facilitates the conversation, and then it helps you figure out what you want to do.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. And also, there's not a lot of pitching events left anymore, but like, that's another thing I've done with all my partners, is gone to these pitching events, not because we ever thought we were going to sell our scripts at them, but to give us a way to practice pitching together.
Yeah.
And that's really cool, because that's your goal, to get into a room, and you don't want the first time you're pitching together to be at HBO. But funny story, that was the first time I pitched with Unc, was in a big meeting at HBO. We had never even met in person before.
Wow.
And we met in person about an hour and a half before we were walking into HBO offices to pitch like 5 different TV show ideas.
Yeah.
And we just got really lucky, because we were good in the room. They requested to read all 5, and nothing got picked up, but it was still really cool. And we didn't make fools out of ourselves.
That's good. That's the key. You don't want to look like a jackass in the room. Come prepared.
Ding, ding. Yep.
Yeah.
No jackass allowed. Out with you.
Yeah.
Get out. Well, Sadie, Jeanne, we're never going to write together, but we do this together.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
It's fun. I like it.
Yeah.
I hope I like it too.
So go find a partner, or not.
Or don't. Yeah. And it's not for everyone, but it's nice to have that sounding board, or, if you don't have a partner, join a writer's group, because that also helps a lot too. And if you need that kind of feedback, or someone to kind of keep tabs on you, if you need that accountability, that also helps with having a writing partner or joining a writer's group. So if that's what you're looking for, you got to know which one looks best for you. And then just go write, because it's so easy.
It's so easy. Ding. So easy. Damn it. Why didn't I put that in my office? Pissed. Well, go forth and be reckless.
Yes.
Reckless Creatives is a Pipeline Artist original podcast. Like, subscribe, and follow us on social media at Pipeline Artists, and find more info at pipelineartists.com/listen. Until next time, stay reckless.